Hi, this is a video I did with Mom, recorded in Christmas of 2010. I'm only now getting around to putting it all together. It is February of 2016. I hope you enjoy it all. It's been a lot of fun putting it together, and here it goes. We could probably get started. Let's see, today is December 26th, 2010.
Right,
Interview with Dorothea Dillenbeck. Yes. Okay. We're going to walk you through your history.
Pardon?
We're going to walk you through your history.
Oh, okay.
So, you were born in what year and where were you born?
I was born in Brooklyn in 1924.
And then you moved to?
Then we moved to Little Neck when I was young.
Okay. And who were your parents?
My parents were Julia and Val Schmidt.
Okay. Let me get this. I think I can improve the focus. No, that's much better focus. Okay, great. Who are your siblings?
Who are my siblings? I had Bud and Bob. Bud's 2 years younger, Bob's 4 years younger.
Okay, right. So, where did your father work at?
My father worked for Schaefer Brewery for years. But before that, he worked in Akron, Ohio, with a tire company. That was during the Depression. We always had a job.
Yeah. What was so you were born in 1924. What was Manhasset like when you were growing up in the 1930s?
Well, it was 37 when we moved there.
37. Okay, so you would have been about
11, 12, something like that.
Okay. What was it like then?
It was nice. It was still very rural. Our houses weren't built up. None of Port Washington in this area was built up. And Manhasset, it was Muncie Park. We were the end, and now it's expanded tremendously.
Wow.
We paid $17,500 for a house in Muncie Park.
Wow. How much do you think that house would go for today?
$1 million something.
Wow. Okay.
Excuse me.
What other memories do you have of Manhasset?
Pardon me?
What other memories do you have of Manhasset?
Oh, that was my best time of my life. I was great. I went there in 7th grade and went through high school there, and I had lots of friends and lots of dates and lots of fun. Very very little reading and doing homework.
And why was that?
I was too busy having fun. And nobody was pushing in those days to go to college. That was something if you wanted to go or your family could afford it, but you were not. Only the men were being pressured.
Oh. What about some of your memories of high school?
Oh, it was great. We had all kinds of parties there, geo hops, and we go out for lunch, and that's when I learned how to smoke, when we go downtown to eat lunch.
Is that where did you meet Nano and some of your...
Nano, we just met her. I don't know where I met Nano, actually. I honestly don't remember, because she didn't go to Manhasset. She went away to boarding school.
No.
But somewhere along the way I met her, and we became very good friends.
Oh, okay.
And she loved my mother. She just thought my mother was nifty.
So how old were you when you met Dad?
16.
16?
I was at a sorority meeting, and he called up to see who didn't have a date. And there were 2 of us, and he picked me.
Well, he was about 5 years older than you?
Yeah, he's 5, 6 years older, yeah.
That's a pretty big age gap at that age.
Right, but my mother loved him. Or at least she felt that he was safe.
Uh, wait, so you dated for then about 2 or so years before you married?
Right. I was just 19.
Okay, so then,
Because he was in the service.
so you met him before the war broke out or after the war broke out?
Before the war broke out. Or if it did, he wasn't in the service at that time.
So
He went to the service when I was a senior in high school.
Okay. So you married in 1943, right?
Right.
And he was in the service, and you lived in some military bases first?
Right. We were in first we were in Fayetteville, North Carolina. Then we were in Durham, North Carolina. For a while we were in Maryland, and then we were in Arkansas for a little bit. And that was when he went overseas.
Why were you moving? Why did they move him around so much?
I have no idea. Never asked him, but that was what it was. They kept moving him around till the last base he went. That was it in Jersey. That was overseas.
When did he go overseas?
He said he was on the boat New Year's Eve. I can't remember what year it was. 1942, 43.
No, maybe even. Well, I don't know. I would be after. Was it after D-Day or before?
It must have been after D-Day. Yes.
So it would have to have been.
He was in the service, but he wasn't. Didn't go. He went into flying school after. That's how he. And he went down to Fort Sill, Arkansas. And they learned to fly those little Piper clubs. But he crashed it. They didn't charge him for it, fortunately.
Well, did he fly at all in Europe?
Did he fly what?
Did he fly at all when he was
Right,
in
I think
Europe?
so. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So he must have been then really there at the tail end of the war.
Yeah, he was a first lieutenant.
Yeah. So when did he come back?
Oh, he stayed there after the war ended for a while. It was about 18 months when he came back.
Right, right. Where were you living all this time?
With my mother.
How was that?
Not good, but it could have been worse. She liked Dan. She was very happy having Dan there.
Okay. Where did you so when he came back, where did you live?
When he came back, we went to live with his mother for a while, and that was horrible. I was out every day looking for an apartment, and I found one in Plandome over a garage.
So did you live with his mother until you moved to Guilford Road?
No, we lived with his mother till I found the apartment in Plandome.
Apartment in Plandome.
Oh, I couldn't stand living with her much longer.
By then, was Ken was born already by then?
No.
No, not yet?
No, Ken was born in the apartment.
Ken was born, okay.
Because Dan was 18 months when he came home, and there's 3 years between them.
No.
So it was a little while.
Ken was born in what, 47?
Yeah.
47, okay. So, how did you find this place in Guilford Road?
I can't remember. I honestly don't remember because it was a garage apartment. There was a kitchen downstairs, and upstairs there was a living room and one bedroom and a bath. And we ended up sleeping in the living room because we had 2 kids there.
Wait, you ended up sleeping in this living room?
No, in the apartment.
Oh, in the
I
apartment.
slept in the living room in the apartment.
But you're right. So you moved to Guilford Road in 1949.
Right, we already had 2 kids and we only had 2
Yeah.
bedrooms.
Yeah.
And then my brother came to live with us because my father was moving to Milwaukee, and he didn't want to go. So he lived with us for a while till he went in the service in Korea.
Right. But you moved into Guilford Road in what, 1949?
49,
Right?
Christmas of 49.
Oh, Christmas of 49. Huh.
We had nothing. We had no telephone, no anything.
How many people were living in Guilford Road when you moved in?
The whole area, this whole Guilford Road, we had moved in.
People all moving in around the same time?
Same time, right.
And they're all mostly people out of the service?
Right. They were all young people just out of the service.
All right. And how much did the house cost?
$11,000. And then we paid $2,500 to put 2 bedrooms and a bath upstairs so Bob could live with us.
So Bob, what, your brother moved in after he came back from the war?
Right.
The Korean War.
Right. Till he got a job in Cleveland.
I wonder if Jan remembers Bob living here. She
Yes,
must have.
I
Yeah,
do.
she says yes. What was Port Washington like back in the 1950s?
It was pretty much the way it is now. By the time we moved in, New Salem was put up in.
So we were talking about what it was like to grow up in Port Washington in the 1950s. What were you saying? It was very much the same?
Well, by the time I came to Port Washington, I was married with 2 children.
And you're saying the town was already built up? It pretty much looks the same as
The first area was built up. This section. It took a while for the rest of it to be built up. We had no telephone. You couldn't get a telephone after the war. We had no grass. We had nothing but mud, and we had a dog. And the dog would go out and bring the mud back. And your father finally said, "Get rid of that dog." So we
What
did.
kind of a dog did you have?
Oh, it was a cute little puppy. I don't know what he was. Just a mutt. He was in the house when we went in to buy the house. The little house that they had one house up.
How long did it take to get a telephone?
Oh, it's quite a while. We had a telephone on the corner.
Wow.
Oh.
And same thing with cars. You had a lot of trouble getting cars after the war ended. We were in Plandome then.
Oh.
And your grandmother said, "I can't believe you buy a car before you get a house." I said, "Yep, I'm stuck here."
You made friends with a number of neighbors in the
Oh yeah, we were
Guilford
all
Road.
friendly.
Yeah. Who in particular were you friends with? Do you remember?
Rita Green probably, and the Pinks. We got to know the Pinks pretty well.
They moved in around the same time?
Right, they moved in the same time we did, yeah. I can't remember how many kids they had when they came in, not too many.
They had 3.
Yeah.
So let's see, when you moved here in Christmas of 1949, there was Deanne and Ken, but
That was it.
Ricky was not yet born.
He wasn't yet born, no. Well, I was already pregnant with him.
Oh, okay. So Ricky was born in 1950.
Right.
And then Bobby was born in 1951.
One. Yeah,
And I was 5 years later.
right.
Okay. So was Salem Elementary School open then?
No, not when we moved in. Dan went down to Flower Hill.
Oh.
But I think all of you, went. Just
Okay. What was Dad doing? What kind of work was he doing when he was when you first moved in here?
Oh, he was working for some magazine. He was working for Today's Woman, I think.
What was he doing in a magazine?
He was selling space.
Oh.
And
So-
then every time he got in a magazine, it went belly up. He was in quite a few different magazines, and that was it. They dropped them. So that was when he knew somebody, and I forgot what his name was, and he said, "Would you be interested in insurance?" So he went over and interviewed, and he got the job in the insurance company, Penn Mutual.
Oh, and he was always going into New York City?
Yeah.
Commuting into New York City?
Wow.
Okay.
And we didn't have a car in the apartment. He had to walk to the train.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I didn't have a car to get the groceries. It wasn't very much fun. But at least I wasn't living with his mother.
So, about Dad's obsessive compulsive tendencies, did they get worse over time, or did you Dad's obsessive compulsive activities?
I think he always had it, yes.
But
I just didn't know what it was. I didn't understand it. It was a long time before I understood what it was.
Did they seem to get worse over time?
Oh, I think so, yes. I mean, at least for me, it got worse.
Or how? In what ways did you see it manifest itself?
Well, mostly when he had the car, and I take him to 3 trains, or when he come home at night, I'd take him a half an hour to shut the car up, take him another half an hour to hang his pants up and his shirt up. And no matter where we went to go, we were always ready to go someplace, and we would wait and wait and wait until he was ready. And then he was always happy. See, I'm ready. It's time we can have some fun now.
So he was operating on his own time.
On his own time, when he wanted to.
How did you manage raising 5 children at once?
I don't know. Joyce and I wonder how we did it.
Did you want to say anything more about that?
I don't know. I didn't mind it. I like being a mother. Mother. And I don't remember we ever had a meal together, ever. Your father never was home to eat with us, even on holidays. But I don't know, but I don't remember. I remember cooking for you, and I don't remember anything except Bobby driving you crazy, and you would kept saying, he's ruining my food. He's ruining my food. And finally I put you in front of the television, and that's where you ate your dinner every night.
I don't remember
That was not a bad decision. That was a bad decision. I should have made Bobby stop it.
How would you describe the different personality differences between all of us?
Oh, you're all different. Ricky was very, very clean. Bobby was filthy. You always needed a good friend. Bobby was always in some kind of trouble, little troubles. Like the time when they urinated on the car, on Bertolus's car, and the police came, and then another time the police came because they had chewed some nuts and they spit it on some girl on the other block, and our mother said it was a brand new outfit. And I felt like saying, why did you put her out to play in a brand new outfit?
What about Jan, being the firstborn? What was she like?
You couldn't go any place with Deanne. She hated it. She only wanted to be home. Never wanted to go any place. She cried. She was horrible. She was always stubborn. If she wanted a certain kind of shoes and you couldn't find it after 10 stores and you made her buy the shoes, she wouldn't wear them. She was very definite of what she wanted.
Could you see the personality?
I can see it now, and more so when I look back at the different personalities.
Could you see who we were as a child, the same as what we were later on in life?
Oh, I think so. Yeah. Except Bobby, I don't remember talking much. Ricky never said a word. Ricky, no matter what you did, he never said a word. He didn't talk.
Are there any particular memorable stories you remember about us that you want to tell for posterity?
Any stories I want to tell?
Yeah, any ones that stick out in your mind?
I don't know. It was fun. It was fun going out on Halloween and Christmas. Christmas was fun. Even your father enjoyed Christmas, but he still drove you crazy because he didn't eat with us. But he liked Christmas. He liked putting the trains up, and then he liked those racing cars. He loved those racing cars.
Well, I remember the trains.
Yeah.
Model cars.
Then every Christmas I'd wait for my father's check, big check, $100, which wouldn't go anyplace today. But we bought bicycles, hid them in Donnie's garage until Christmas Eve.
Oh, that's right. How was it that Uncle Donnie ended up moving in Guilford Road?
Because they were living with Kenny's mother, and it was just not working out. And so she sold the house and took an apartment, and then she bought Don and Jean's house down below and rented it to them. And that upset Jean because everybody in the development knew that they didn't own the house. Yeah.
How did you get along with How'd you get along with them?
Got along. Jean was very nice. I liked Jean very much. Ken, your father did not get along with his brother at all. At all.
Why was that?
I don't know. After his mother died, they fought over every single piece of furniture. The piano, your father finally had to buy the piano. After my mother and father died, we had no problems at all. We took what we wanted. We didn't say, well, you've got more value than I've got, and this, if we both wanted something, we drew from the hat. And it was just fine. We would have taken a lot more, but because my mother was still alive, we were there for the people who were holding her furniture in case she came out of the nursing home, but she never was going to. But so we had to move everything up, but we had to pay for it. If she had died, the estate would have then paid for all the moving.
How old was your mother when she went into the nursing home?
She was only about like 68.
That's young.
Yeah, she was young. My father was 79. He was never sick. He just was sitting having breakfast one day and he dropped dead. And the man that was buying the house was having an appointment with him and looked in the window and saw him on the floor.
Where was Grandpa going to move to?
Where was Grandpa gonna move to?
She moved to an apartment in Dolphin Green.
No. Where was Grandpa Schmidt's going to move to?
Where was Grandpa Dillenbeck?
No, Schmidt's.
Oh, he died before my mother.
Well, I thought you said the man who was going to buy the house from him, found him dead.
Yes. Well, my mother was in the nursing home and my father was selling the house.
Where was he going to move to?
He had an apartment he was going to have, and had it partially furnished.
Oh.
So Bob got the television and some of the things he had bought. He got a decorator in to help him decide how to fix it up for my mother, but she never was coming out. He just thought she was going to.
Oh.
I want to talk about me for a moment. When they left me back in kindergarten, what explanation did they give you?
That you just weren't ready, so you went a second year. And then they said that you still were not ready. And the school psychiatrist said, no, he got problems. So we sent you to this school in Uniondale, Mrs. Shendell. Mrs. Shendell called me in at Halloween and she said, I don't know what is wrong with your school system. There is nothing wrong with this child. He is just sopping it up. She said he's very, very shy and very quiet, and you could see the little teardrops on his eyes. He was very unhappy.
Well, if they put me in a special ed school, what specific reason did they couldn't, it wasn't just because I was shy.
No, they just, I don't know, they said that you weren't ready. You weren't reading, you weren't doing what most kindergarten kids should be doing. Mm-hmm. And she said she didn't like where they put her, because they were very severely handicapped, some of the children. And she said, I don't care, I'm getting him back in that school. And you never had another problem once you went back. Not a problem.
So how old was Jan? Let's see, Jan graduated in high school from 1962. And she went off to college. Where is that?
Albany State.
So she went to school at Albany State and lasted two months?
I think maybe till Christmas. I don't know.
Christmas.
Wasn't very long.
Before the semester was over.
All I know is your father he was too busy. He was always too busy when I needed him. So I had to drive up to Albany and get her and bring her home. Jean drove up with me.
Oh.
That's the longest trip I've ever made in the car by myself.
And then what did Jan do after that?
Then she went to Catherine Gibbs. And then she graduated from Catherine Gibbs as one of their better students, and she got a job with GE right away.
In New York-
First,
New
I
York.
worked for Richard's Publishing Company, punching coupon books for Marcia Hagan's father.
I'm not sure if we're picking that up in the mic or not, but anyway, Jan graduated from Catherine Gibbs, went
Right.
to work at publishing house, and then
No, I went to Richard's Publishing Company, punching coupon books, and then I went to Catherine Gibbs.
and you went to Catherine Gibbs.
Oh, that's right. You worked for Marcia's father?
Marcia's father for a while.
Oh, yeah.
But did Jan move into New York City at that point?
Yes.
Okay.
She went to work with Mabel, Diana Pink's husband's sister.
And when did Jan move to San Francisco?
1968.
She moved, for the record, Jan moved to San Francisco in 1968. So we all went to Schreiber High.
Right.
Ken must have graduated in 1965, I would guess.
Right.
And he went to Hamilton College.
Right.
And lasted how long?
I think he was a senior.
Oh, he made it all the way to his senior year.
Yes. And what happened, it was very sad. Ken was very naive. He let somebody use his notes. And the professor, of course, realized it, and because it was the honor system, he got a double F. And he couldn't survive that. So he dropped out.
And let's see, Winch went to Lafayette College.
Right.
It must have been 1968, I'm guessing.
Right.
1968. And then Bobby went to
He-
Quinnipiac in 1969.
Right. He followed a year behind. And he didn't make Southampton. That was a brand new school where anybody could get in. He was not a very good student, and Quinnipiac was the only one that he got accepted at.
Why? Did he apply to a number of schools?
Yes.
Oh.
But he never gave me one bit of a problem. He was on Dean's List several times. He had #1 in the draft lottery, if you remember the draft. Ken and Rick had very good numbers in the 300s. They knew they weren't going to Vietnam. Bob had #1. He dropped out of school and he was right in the Army right away. And by the time he graduated, it was over.
Were you worried about your children being drafted?
Of course. And they were all protesting the war. And I was still saying, it's our country, it's your duty. It's like the same thing I told them that they were smoking pot. It was illegal. It was terrible.
But you feel differently now.
I felt differently about a lot of things, yes.
But how did you feel about when Ken and Ricky both dropped out?
Your father almost had a heart attack when Ken, he had such pains in his chest, I thought he was having a heart attack.
Why did he take it so personally, you think?
Because I think he felt Ken was always the brightest, the bright.
Oh.
I mean, he had such good marks all through school. He had all kinds of honors. He won a Spanish award. He had math, his math SATs were high.
What memories do you have of the 1960s, which is a very turbulent era?
I don't really remember that I had any problems with it being turbulent. I was just kind of going along. I had my kids. I had my kids. I had my work. And I don't think I got involved in politics at all. Eventually, of course, that the Vietnam War was wrong. We shouldn't have been there.
I think I remember you screaming at the TV at Richard Nixon when he was making speeches.
I could have. I could have.
Um,
But I was definitely a Republican. Died in the will Republican.
why do you think that was?
Because my father was, my husband was. I figured that was the way I should be. It took me a long time before I realized there were other ways to.
Let me see. Oh yeah, that's right. When did you start working? What was your first job, and when did you
First
start?
job, Jean Olson across the street had a job at the Episcopal Church, and she wanted to leave because she wanted to work full time, and it was only 9 to 1, and it was only during the school year. So I went over and I applied, and I got the job, and I was there quite a few years, and then all of a sudden they got a new minister, and we were all let go. So that was when I decided Eloise Leslie was working at Publishers, and she said, "I think you'll like it." So I went down and took the test and put my name in, and I waited a long time. I was beginning to get nervous, and I kept calling to see if I had the job, and they kept saying, "We haven't decided yet." Then all of a sudden the phone rang, and they said, "Yes, come down."
What year was that? What year was that?
You were about 6 when
So-
I went to work for the church.
That sounds about right. But
Right.
so you started at Publishers. What? How many? A couple years later?
A couple of years later, and I was there 20-some years.
20-some years.
I left in 89, I think it was, 1989. Today, the people come in, they don't walk their babies, they don't get together for coffee. We always had plenty of places to go to have a cup of coffee with the kids, and I met Joyce, and all of a sudden Joyce has also got pregnant a couple of times, so we became good friends even after she moved. We were still good friends. And we kept in touch with the Greens, and then we went down to visit them in Florida one time. And at this point, Rita was not very good. She was in a state of very bad depression. And she was always one of these people, when I first knew her, always up, always fun.
Wait, you knew her? Where did you know her from?
She lived right across the street
Oh.
in Barbara Rumenap's house. They were the originals.
Oh.
And I still get a Christmas card from Bob Green, and he sent me those pictures of New Year's Eve.
Ask her about Dad's different jobs.
We talked a little bit about that. Dad worked at quite a few different jobs. He kept Did he kept losing his jobs?
Oh, he kept losing one job after the other. And then he was with Penn Mutual, and his boss, whatever his name was, Carl Purser, and he kept calling me, and he kept saying he should be my best salesman, but he said, you got these nuts and bolts here, Ken, okay, now put them in. He said he just couldn't seem to get himself organized. He didn't understand the problem either. The Ken couldn't take the things and put them in the next box. He had to keep doing it. And he finally got discouraged, and he said he was falling asleep after his mother died and his father died, and he was simply not functioning. And he finally said, I'm sorry, I can't keep him any longer.
But he sent him to a psychiatrist.
Yes, but he wouldn't go. We saw a doctor, and he suggested a psychiatrist, and your father said, I'm not mad. So he said, I'm not going.
Well, what year are we talking about here? Around what time? 1950s, 60s?
Oh, yes, at least. Because he was with Penn Mutual a fairly long time.
What kind of jobs did he have that he got fired from?
Different magazines. I mean, he go to work at 10 o'clock in the morning for this one magazine, and he said, well, they're not paying me enough. And I said, well, they're paying you to do a job. Some of the magazines went out of business. So that was part of the problem. Then he went to Mass Mutual. I don't know how many different agencies are paying Mass Mutual that they fire him. And then he'd go and get a job with the next agency. And then he finally came out to here, and he had no car to get to Garden City. And that was the first time I finally got money from my mother's estate, and I bought him a very lovely car.
No, Bruce is interviewing our mother.
Um,
What? Bruce is interviewing our mother. Oh.
So I bought him a beautiful Subaru, brand new.
You bought him a Subaru?
Right. Believe me, he got plenty out of my family's money. I got nothing out of his mother's money.
You got the green furniture.
Hmm?
You got the green furniture.
Oh yes, I did. I got the green furniture.
What didn't a lot of that money he inherited after his parents died? He lost it in the stock market?
Well, he lost it, but by the time he lost it, he had also put Ken and Ricky and Bobby through college with it. Because college wasn't that expensive, and he got $50,000, and that put the three boys through, plus loans. Then I put you through on publisher's money without a loan. I gave you the choice. Do you want a private school or a public school? If you go to a private school, you'll have a loan, and you said, I'll go to the public school. That's when you went to Newport. I don't remember whether you went to any other colleges. I can't remember.
No, I graduated from New Paltz.
I know, but I didn't know whether you had gone to apply to any other.
I applied to one or two other state schools.
How did Mass Mutual keep hiring him at different agencies?
What?
How did Mass Mutual keep hiring him at different agencies?
I don't know.
You
And then
think
he
there'd be
finally
something
ended
for
up in
reference
Garden
checks?
City, and that was when I couldn't be bothered. I was trying to get him to work at 8 o'clock so I could get back to my job at 8 o'clock. And finally I got the money, and I said, okay, we're buying you a car. So, and don't call me if your car breaks down. Call AAA.
Describe a typical morning getting him to the railroad station.
You know what it was like. I take him to a train and he'd miss it. And we come back, he'd have another cup of coffee. We'd go to the next train, he'd miss it. Back home for the third time, another cup of coffee, and he still would miss it. And then from there I went over to Manhasset to my job. Always late. I was always late to every job I went to.
Were they understanding you being late? What did you tell them?
Well, I didn't have to sign a time clock anyplace. I just had to say, I just sign in that I was there.
Oh.
At church.
How did you feel when Jan moved out to California?
Oh, I cried. Oh, I cried for weeks and months. I cried when I left her in Albany. But I thought maybe she said, if I don't like it, I'll see you in 3 months. But she and Marcia didn't come back.
Right.
But she had reasons why she wanted to go. I mean, she had a chance to go, but she had reasons of her own that she wanted to get out of here.
You encouraged me. You encouraged me to move into New York City.
Yes, I'm sure I
You
did.
did. You told me it was a good thing to do.
And
I wanted out of here
why was that?
because I couldn't stand Dad.
So Mom, why did you encourage her to leave?
Probably because I knew she wasn't happy. I mean, I don't know. Joyce and I have both gone back, and we don't know where we went wrong, what we should have done differently. We both did things wrong. I was abused one way, and she was abused another way. Not physically, but Debbie said you were mentally abused. Force number one, and I wouldn't do what P is doing because there was no money. And what was I going to do?
Yeah.
You know, you're stuck with it. But I put up what I put up, and I put up. And after he died, it was almost like a feeling of, I'm free. I did not even grieve that much for him.
We talked about that the other night when you I don't know where you were. Because you never had a life.
No.
You never had a life.
You know, I mean, his idea of a gift was something to use in the yard. And if he took me for dinner, finally I'd say, I'm not going anymore. It's so expensive to go out. That's the only thing he had to do. He didn't have a cleaning woman. I didn't have anything. And it was a birthday or something, and he couldn't even bother paying the bills then.
No, and we remember he'd go to the cleaners at 5:01 before the guy was closing, and then he'd come back and go to the supermarket at 5 minutes before they
Right,
were closing.
right.
I also remember you cutting the lawn most of the time.
I did.
Did he ever cut the lawn?
Gloria said, why didn't your kids do it? I can't remember where you were. And then one day I'm thinking I'm working 8 to 4 and I'm coming home and doing the yard work, and that was when I saw Jim. And I hired Jim. That was the last time I ever... And then I was pushing the lawnmower before I hired Jim, and Mr. Pulaski bought a new lawnmower, and he gave me his old lawnmower.
She must have still had stitches.
Um,
Rachel said you burst some stitches while you were mowing the lawn.
I did what?
Burst
Literally,
some
you
stitches.
came home after once and you were bitching and moaning and you were out there with the stitches still in. It must have been
The first thing I did after I came out of the hospital with the babies, nobody's cut the lawn. I cut it. I broke the stitches. That was the last thing I did and the first thing I did. I was wrong. I was wrong. But what was I going to do? He wasn't going to cut the lawn. He wasn't going to do anything.
Some change of light bulb, maybe.
Oh, and then I remember he was putting something up in the kitchen and he hammered so hard he broke the piece of wood.
Oh, I know.
Watching him put a stamp on was 20 minutes.
I know. To write a check took him forever to write one check. When we were going to Hamilton, he's in the bedroom and it's 4 or 5 o'clock and we were supposed to be taking Ken to college, 4 or 5 hours up. And we were coming back the same night.
Oh my God.
What he was doing writing that check, I don't know.
Well, he was obsessive compulsive. We know that now.
Right. It's like Joyce said, you know, she could do nothing. She couldn't even market. He did the marketing.
Really?
She said if I charged something, he would pay for it. But other than that, she said I was just totally warped. If the girls had a skirt too short, he'd make them lower the skirt, and then when they get to school, they'd fix it. And I remember we were all down there for dinner one night, and he made all you kids take a vitamin pill.
I don't remember that.
Because his kids were there having to take their vitamin pill. Oh, I don't let me forget my pills
Funny
tonight.
the stuff you remember or don't remember.
Yeah.
seems like a bit more is coming out as you start talking.
It was not a happy marriage.
Do you think if he was not obsessive compulsive, it might have been a happier marriage?
I don't know. I think in some ways it certainly would have been. But he didn't seem to have any connection to anything. He didn't, to me or the kids.
No connection.
Which is, I said, the first thing I said to Dr. Klein, he wanted a maid he could fuck. And I said, that's just about it.
That's putting it pretty bluntly.
That was pretty blunt, yeah.
One time I asked him, Bruce, you never said you loved me. Instead of saying, of course, he said, oh, I never did. That was his response.
When was this?
Mom and Dad came to California. Let's see, it had to be around 82, 83 because I was in my little townhouse then.
He never was nice to you when you came home.
Never.
Never.
Ever.
It was like he almost resented your coming in the house.
Oh, yeah.
And that last night, he said to me, I don't want them here. Get them out of my house. I realized now he wasn't feeling well. But then he went in and he said, he got dressed and he said, I think I better come out. Fortunately, he came out and spent the night.
Yeah, and that was it. That's when he died.
That was the last night he was alive.
When I came home one time to surprise you and you had that thing running through the house.
Well, he said,
well, it was very nice of you to come, but you could have chosen a better time.
because they were having the work done on the
then I
house.
had a box of C's candy. I told him if he'd go to Ken and Joe's, I'd give him the box of C's candy. He told me I could take the fucking box of candy and throw it out the window.
You're getting some beefed up now.
Yeah, well, that's the way he treated me. Always. Always.
Yeah.
We'll eventually get to you to hand your.
And yet if I asked him about you, he'd say, I'm very proud of her.
Boy, could have fooled me.
Never showed.
What made you, I don't know what made you the way you are. I mean, a very competent, able businesswoman.
Marcia and I have had multitude of conversations about this. I think it was just, well, like Rich and I have talked about it. We kind of came to realize that we were okay people. We were smart, we were responsible, and that we just somehow were able to pull it together.
I mean, you're going back to college at night after you've been working all day?
Well,
I think
my biggest thing was I had extremely supportive bosses. They all thought I was smart and very capable, and I guess you would call them mentors along the way. I had
Well, you went with
tremendous.
Nancy, and Nancy was married, had a family going with you.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It took you like 13 years or something.
Yeah. Well, because I had to switch schools.
Right.
I started in San Francisco, and then when I went to Cal State Long Beach, they said, well, your credits aren't good for very much, so I started all over again as a freshman.
Looks like Kent, he practically had to start all over again. He went
Yeah.
to Nassau Community,
Yeah.
and they wouldn't take his credits. Then he finished up at Hofstra, and he got some sort of a scholarship to go there.
But to this day, if somebody says they're gonna be at my place at 1 o'clock, they better show up at 1 o'clock, or I better have a phone call at 5 after 1, because otherwise don't show up, because you can't even speak to me.
Do you think you're not getting married had anything to do with your upbringing?
Sure.
Because that Joyce said that that's why Judy didn't want to get married.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think I looked at the wrong kind of men, looking for that affirmation, and just, looking for that daddy to love me, and I just never got it. So, but I'm not unhappy.
I remember you saying once, I live what I do what I want, when I want, I don't answer to anybody.
That's very true. I don't. And I remember you said to me, "Aren't you lonely?" And I said, "There's a difference between being
You said,
alone
yes, she
and
said I'm
lonely."
alone,
And
but I'm
I've
not lonely.
Never been lonely. Actually, I like my own company. Which just went the other way. He had all these.
He kept trying the wrong people.
Oh, he should have written a book on his travels.
I think it took years to build the self-esteem,
Yeah.
to feel like I had a fear of success, literally. It took me years to accept it.
Yeah.
It was a self-esteem issue.
Yeah, I just don't think any of us had self-esteem. We just didn't think we were worthy. And it took a lot of people to convince us that we were worthy. And now I have it because the men that I work with think I'm incredible. I've gotten awards. They just think I am so competent, and they're just so happy that I'm willing to step up and just take over and let them do their thing and let me do my thing.